T3 T3 Media.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking to the Media. Is your home for entertainment news by fans for fans, and I don't usually go, this late. I'm usually definitely doing something different at this hour, like work, sleep, and stuff like that. Well, I bet you thought I was going to say something else. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what is going on with my camera. Everything's kind of, let's see, it's kind of jumbled up. What is that thing right there? I guess I'll just disappear that real quick, fix that. That's fine. But I finally was like, you know what, me and Joy, we're always talking crazy stuff at this hour right before bed, and just we're excited. Astros won, so I said, Joy, why don't you? I'm always saying you need to be on the show, and we just do what we normally do, which is I'm sitting there trying to ignore you, and then you try to say, hey Chris, look at this, and we and we talk about stuff we find it online, TikTok mostly nowadays. But so that's what we're gonna do right now. So welcome back in our night clothes. Welcome back, my wife Joy. So real quick, like right off the bat, though, I wanted to start off with talking about what's been going on in the news right now with Alec Baldwin. I told you about that, right? About what happened with him on set. Now, it's for this movie that he is the producer of called Rust. There was a tragic accident that happened. I was disgusted in so many people that were trying to capitalize on the story. Like they would put in their descriptions on their videos. I'm not going to name the channels right now because I don't feel like getting into it. But stuff like Alec Baldwin killed. I mean, like on a technicality level. So if you call them out on it, but you know what they're doing when they type it out there like that, like as if he intended to do it or something like that, trying to stir up clicks like that. And I don't know. I don't like people that do that. You know how I get. You know how I get. I'm always talking to myself during in the house about shit like that. But I'm looking at ABC News right now. I'm gonna scroll through it real fast. I'll try to read. Baldwin was told gun was cold before the movie set shooting. So that is an update I'm getting. Also from Santa Fe, a film as a film crew and actor in Western garb prepared to rehearse a scene inside a wooden chapel like building on a desert movie ranch outside Santa Fe. Assistant director Dave Hall stepped outside and grabbed a prop gun off a cart. Now, see, now names are starting to be released. He walked back in and handed it to the film star Alec Baldwin, assuring him it was safe to use because it didn't have live ammo. I said this on TikTok. Well, I was on somebody else's live. I think it was a guy I follow. Was it Ramo? He was talking about this as it was breaking, and I was like, the person mostly responsible, I guess. I mean, it's all an accident, but the person who would be mostly responsible is whoever was in charge of assurance that the prop was safe to use on set. But like I said, there's these gooper, geeks and gamer guys out there just wanted to put it on the headline. Alec Baldwin, because they don't like the fact that he made fun of Trump on Saturday Night Live, so they just want to. Alec Baldwin killed somebody. That's all they're gonna say. Yeah, like as if he's a murderer or something like that. The guy's on set. There's pictures of him on set. Like you can see it on his eyes, freaking out. Totally, the response that you would think from something like that. And if you guys that are watching right now, if you have anything to add, you got some topic. We're going to talk about this, and then we're going to just go open on some topics just to talk about that's been happening online. So if you have something to throw at me that you want me to react to, let me know. But for Alec Baldwin, he said he walked back into and handed the film star Alec Baldwin the gun, assuring him that it was safe. Cold gun, Hall yelled. It was a cold gun. That's the code for that it was this properly safe. It wasn't, according to the court records made public Friday. Instead, when Baldwin pulled the trigger Thursday, he killed cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and wounded director Joel Souza, who was standing behind her. I heard that the bullet went through her and hit her. The tragedy came nearly 3 decades after Brandon Lee, the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, died in a similar case, and it prompted horrific questions about how it could have happened again. The executive producer of ABC's police drama The Rookie announced Friday the show would no longer use live weapons because the safety of our cast and crew is more important. Now that was what people kept saying. Like after what happened to Brandon Lee, how could this happen again? I mean, like that was what 30 years ago? No, about 20
decades,
yeah,
30 years, yeah.
30 years ago. Look at all the movies that have come out since. Like it hasn't. This is an anomaly. I mean, yes, it's that's. I'm asking the same question. How the heck did this happen? Obviously, the person in charge of it, dropped the ball somewhere. But with all the movies that have come out since The Crow, if I'm 30, I mean, you never want something like this to happen. But I mean, some people are making it seem like this can't happen. Some people were trying to make it political, talking about it's ironic how lefties are they're using guns and stuff. These people don't even know how to use guns and stuff. That's why we need more gun training. Um, I mean, it wasn't a legit gun that you would be taking out, that you would register to go out and take out and to protect your home with,
Right.
and to protect your person. I mean, what do you? I mean, overall, I mean, you've been on movie sets and stuff before too, and stuff like this. So, like, what do you think about this whole thing with Alec Baldwin?
I mean, they're clearly. I mean, it is 30 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like, oh, we're just not going to use guns anymore. Like, kind of have to look at it more like working in healthcare, there are checks and balances that we go through, like in order to give the right medication to the right patient. Some things have to be double checked, because errors get made. And over time, they improve those systems more and more and more to prevent mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like someone needs to come up with a more foolproof system to ensure that you don't get these accidents.
I
don't know what that would be, but
my only question is, after The Crow, I thought they stopped using guns that could actually hold like anything similar to a live round or anything that's.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought they stopped doing that. That would be my question. Like, why would they even? And why would a prop gun be capable of even holding these types of rounds? That's I don't know. That's my question. So it's great. So details of the shooting at the ranch at Bonanza Creek Road were included in a search warrant application filed by the Santa Fe Court Sheriff's Office. Investigations were seeking to examine Baldwin's blood-stained costume for the film Rust, as well as the weapon that was fired, other prop guns and ammunition, and any footage that might exist. The gun was one of three that the film armorer Hannah Gutierrez had set on a cart outside the building where a scene was being acted. According to the record, Halls grabbed the gun from the cart and brought it inside to Baldwin, unaware that it was loaded with live rounds. Like, why would live rounds be brought in?
There should have been a checks and balances system in place because there shouldn't have been any guns that would have had live rounds. I mean,
there shouldn't have been live rounds.
Right.
Like, why are you bringing live rounds?
Necessary. So what happened? Who dropped the ball there?
Well, they obviously they're dropping the name. So that's, I mean, Alec is already the producer. This is 100. He's acting in this and he's producing it. So this is something that, I mean, ultimately the buck stops with him as far as like responsibility, him and the director and things like that. So releasing this person's name, that's step one, I guess, with damage control. I mean, I'm not saying that this was like intentional or anything like that, but the responsibility of making sure that it was like what they put in this report, a cold weapon. Obviously, something like this is going to be investigated. I've already read. I saw on Twitter. I got to look it up, but I saw on Twitter that he's already in communication with Halyna. I forgot. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Halyna's husband. I mean, and that's who I'm interested in hearing from. I mean, look, if it was if this was me in this situation, I mean, based on how it went down and whatnot, I mean, as upset as I would be and like, full of rage and full of emotion that this even could happen, the I mean, I want to say that I would be the kind of guy that be like don't be. I don't know. Don't like. I would be. It would, I guess in these next days or two. I mean, I think he said something like he's not blaming Baldwin or anything like that. And I would hope I would have that kind of strength because I mean, just looking at it logically, I'd be like, you know what, you didn't intend on doing this, but that person that was in charge of making sure that it was clear, what's going to happen to that person now? That's my question. I mean, what do you think? What would you do? How would you pursue this? What do you think should happen?
I mean, because my
Come on, get emotional.
because my career is healthcare, there is a very recent case where a nurse. The incident happened several years ago, but she's been in trial recently. I can't remember what state. It's not here in Texas. It's another state. She was very busy. It was during the day. She was transporting a patient to, it was either like CT or MRI for a procedure, and the patient had to get a medication in getting this procedure done. And they were like, hey, we need you to go get this med so that we can give it to this patient. And she went to, we have, most hospitals now have these everywhere. It's an automated medication system where you have to like use your fingerprint to unlock it. That's just, everybody's fingerprint, like your password. Patient's name pulls up, it lists medications. It's all locked. Even regular meds, everything is locked.
You're saying that they should have something like that in place?
And she, because this was like wasn't an emergency, but because it was an unscheduled procedure, the medication she needed wasn't listed for that patient, so she had to do an override. And she pulled the medication out and checked, looked at it. What she pulled out had a very similar name to the medication she was really supposed to be giving. And she drew it up and she went down and they gave it. And what she gave was a paralyzing medication, which was not what she was supposed to be giving.
What happened to the patient?
Patient died. She did not do that intentionally. 100% an accident. She was devastated.
So what happens legally? Like, did she just get?
Well, of course, they've taken her license away from her.
Right.
And she is currently on trial on whether or not she could
like
serve time for like
involuntary manslaughter 2 or 3 or something like that.
She technically killed someone. It just wasn't on purpose.
Yeah.
Now the state, her people are working to. Basically, they're trying to say there was a lot of other things that failed her because the medication was too similar to the other medication.
Right. So it's like it's arguable that this mistake was. And
apparently, that hospital had been having trouble getting certain meds, and that's why they were using a different brand. That's why. And you're not supposed to be able to, it's supposed to be 2 people to override. So there was some errors with the system. There was a bunch of, like I said, checks and balances that failed in getting to this last step. So they're trying to fight with her, saying she wasn't the only one. That's
ever made that mistake?
I mean, but in this line of people, she's not the only one that's responsible. The hospital, all these other people are responsible too because they weren't keeping things running the way it should have been running that were supposed to be preventing this from ever happening.
And in relation to what happened on set with Alec Baldwin in the situation, I'm curious on how it's going to come down.
I'm assuming when they do their investigation, they will go step by step to say, where does it start at? Who's A number 1, and where does it go next, and where does it go next, and where does it go next, and where did the first ball get dropped?
Yeah.
And how did it make it all the way here? We need to see every step.
See
what happened.
I'm curious on how it's gonna go get laid out. As like when it's all said and done, will they look up like go for criminal charges? Will they?
I feel like it's.
You think they will?
Certainly a possibility.
It's a possibility, but do you think? I mean, I guess it all depends on the investigation.
Again,
Was the person responsible for it negligent for a specific reason? Were they drinking? Was it this? Was it that?
There's a lot of steps because I mean, like again, I'm not in movie business, so it's like
You work in the movie business.
Investigation to see. Wait a minute, were there steps in place? Did people skip steps?
Obviously, a step was skipped.
So that person could say, wait a minute, this wasn't my fault because prior to me, all of these other things got messed up that I didn't know about. So, trying to find out who is the actual.
They're going to pinpoint. Yeah, it's going to start now that it's shifting off of Alec Baldwin onto the person who was in charge of making sure the gun was clear. The person said it was clear. Now it goes on to him or her 100%. Now the question is how is there something that person can say that clears them? No, I was told I was given blanks, or I was told I was
right.
It's gonna be a game of shift hot potato, I guess, and trying to figure out where the buck stops really. Ultimately, it's Baldwin and the director's responsibility because the director is in charge of everything. Baldwin's ultimately the producer, if not the or one of the main producers. So responsibility lies on them. It's crazy that the director himself was also injured. That was crazy. Baldwin was on Twitter. He responded, "1, there are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation into addressing how this tragedy occurred." And let's see, there was a second tweet. Let me see if I can go back and find it. Where's the second tweet at? Number 2, I am in touch with her husband, offering my support to him and his family. My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Halyna, if I'm saying it correctly. You could be dealing with a husband that I mean, it's emotionally, like, it could be a lot of things. Like, he could just be shutting down. He could be out in full of rage.
In the case of that nurse, the family of the person who died,
they were out for revenge. Like,
they
were calm about it.
Devastated, of course, if their family member died, but they weren't out to be like, that nurse needs to go to jail.
Right.
Once they knew what all went on, they were like, our mission is to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that nobody else has this happen to them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about, oh well, we think she's terrible and she needs to go to jail. It was like, they also said things failed here and we need to figure out why, because no one else should die because of failures in the system.
Yeah, and the second thing about it is, while people on one side giving their condolences, making sure everybody's all right, counseling and stuff like that, you have other people simultaneously doing damage control. How can we make sure Baldwin doesn't get in trouble? How can we make sure the movie can still get made? How can we make sure, you're going to have all kinds of characters in this situation. The ones with the best intentions, and then the ones that's only thinking about the money and stuff like that. It's a crazy situation.
Our supporters help make all this content possible, so make sure you check out our Patreon page so you can help us bring you the content you want.
Push the pedal to the freaking metal. I'm turned up just like heavy metal. Yo. Turned up on another level. Push the pedal to the freaking metal. I'm turned up just like heavy metal.